What's up, witches? Thank you for your patience. I've been trying to figure out our previous screen info in this new platform. I wanted to give StreamYard a try.
Ellie, I'm
Yes,
hearing you twice.
you are. Okay, do
Hold
you
on.
have,
It could be that I have you in the background. Hold on.
yeah, I think you probably have YouTube open or something like that. So just check your windows and close anything else that's open. But I wanted to give StreamYard a try for our book club meetings because it allows us to stream to two places. So we're able to stream to my YouTube channel as well as to the HQ YouTube channel. That way, folks can catch the replay wherever they are. And then Coven Community Witches are able to access this direct StreamYard link so that they can be right in the building. So some folks might be looking for us over on Zoom. But I think for this month and next month, we are going to be here on StreamYard. So hopefully, folks navigate to the correct link. And that's probably why they're not with us just yet. So we'll give it a second to see if folks join us. And I'm going to make one more attempt to try to pull up the screen with the info onto the screen with us. So just bear with me for 2 seconds and then we'll get started. Okay, and I am back. I just wanted to double check and make sure I left a little message in the news feed for people. So this is kind of cool, right? It's like over on the side. Hopefully, you guys can see that. But welcome to the November session of the book club. This is the HQ Online Portal Book Club. Folks who are members of the Coven community get access to this book club, the book list, and all of these meetings. So if you are watching this on a replay and want to know how to participate, then you're going to want to join us over in the Coven community at BronxWitch HQ online. And the link to that is down in the description. This month, we are reading A Walk Through the Forest of Souls, a tarot journey of spiritual awakening by Rachel Pollack. This is pretty special. Sorry, I realize I had my apron on. I was making dinner before this. Um, it's pretty special, I think, that we are reading this book this month because Rachel Pollack did pass away this year. She is considered one of the most preeminent voices in modern tarot. Her book 78 Degrees of Wisdom is considered a tarot classic that especially if you read with the writer Waite Smith, most people recommend that you read. And this is her final book before passing. And I think, I think it's special to be able to read this book because it came out just before she passed away. So I'm really glad that she was able to finish it, that Weiser was able to get it out before she passed away. I think she was sick. But it's also pretty special because for folks who really enjoy tarot, this is probably like a nice culmination of analysis and a fresh perspective, a unique perspective, I would say, of looking at the tarot through the lens of how it can help you through your own spiritual journey, and perhaps some history and information about tarot that you maybe didn't know, and in terms of how it was developed and how that might play a factor in how tarot shows up in your life and things like that. So, yeah, I think it was special, and that's kind of what called me to put it on the list. Of course, not knowing that Rachel Pollack would pass away this year. When we put it on the list, I was just excited to see that she had another book for us. I'm glad we made it, that the timing was right. So we will start off with our intros before getting into today's discussion. I'll kick us off. I am Allie, aka BronxWitch. I live in the Bronx, New York. The book for me, I've been kind of bouncing around a little bit. I've been using that technique that I talked about a few months ago of going through the table of contents and going to the chapters that you want to read about. So I've been doing that, but I would say I probably have maybe like a third of it read. I have plans to do a lot of reading of it in the next couple of days before getting started with the December book. So I feel like I'll definitely finish it, but was kind of bouncing around a little bit. So that is me, and I will kick it to the next person in the meeting. I think it's just Betty today.
Hello, Betty here from Toronto.
Hello.
Cold Toronto. I have about 110 pages left. I didn't get to finish it. I, time is not on my time right now.
Mhm.
I don't have as
Yeah,
much free time as I used to.
yeah,
Um,
I feel you.
I'm not complaining. Not complaining. A lot of challenges, stimulating my brain cells in a different way. Um, I've enjoyed the book. It's taken me a little bit longer because there's stuff in it that I see something and I want to research it. So
Mhm.
it takes me a little bit longer. And I'm not staying up half the night anymore. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I did enjoy it. Was it do we want to dig right into it, or do you want to say something else, Allie?
No, sure, go right ahead.
Yeah, so the you know it was clearly written, but there was a lot of stuff in there that I'd have to go back and read it over again because of the significance of it. Like I'm at the point now, I'm at 157, and they're talking about the Freemasons. And it's funny because I don't know where I was reading or researching something recently, and that came up again in something else, not this book. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I guess I'm supposed to pay attention to that somehow because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm getting messages, something about the Freemasons. But there's a lot of stuff in here, but some of it you gotta, if you want to really absorb what you're reading, you kind of got to go off and like, when they talk about something, you might have to actually research that so that you get what they're talking about. She explains a lot, but I like to go a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
And like the Keys of Solomon and stuff like that. So but this was nice because it didn't just tell you about meanings. It went a little bit deeper,
Yeah.
and where it kind of began, and in conjunction with God, and that kind of stuff. So I found it interesting, and it was an
Yeah.
easy read. It's an easy read, but it's just I like to do a little bit more research.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a really great point because, hold on, I'm going to play with these layouts. Let's see.
Yeah, where's
Yay.
the book?
Oh, I like that one. That one's good. Okay, let's see. Okay, I like that one too. I want to get all three. Okay, let's do this because then all three of us are in it. And can I change the size? Oh, wait, no, that just changes it for me. Okay, we'll go with this. And I really like that you make that point about it not being a book of just definitions. I was talking to Nuri about this, about how, like, remember when I used to let everybody vote on every month's book? One of the reasons why that got kind of hard after a while was because the vote tended to go in the direction of like spell books or tarot books that were about like defining each card and listing all, definitions and stuff like that. And I think, folks know me well enough to know now that like the way that I teach and the way that I like to approach these topics is less about memorizing, a bunch of information and more about asking the question of why.
Why?
Yes. So why are we using this? Why does it matter? Why would your life be better or different or worse or what have you if you did these things? And a lot of books that get attention from the publishers or that we see the most of, because they're trying to make sure that the new person, the person who, wants to start at square one has enough material, which I can totally respect. But sometimes, those of us who have probably already collected 3 or 4 books with lists of definitions and have our go-to websites or apps we use or things like that, it's like at a certain point you don't want to keep getting more books like that because they can start to actually like intimidate you from doing readings and make you feel like you've got to constantly, go back to these guides or whatever. But I really like that it's not a book like that, which is what I expected because, it was somebody who wrote for as long as she did and taught on tarot. She's probably super bored by meanings lists and things like that. So I would imagine that she wouldn't want to write something like that. So I was very much looking forward to looking at tarot outside of the lens of memorizing definitions, looking at why tarot might be something significant for you, why it might be helpful for you to understand more of its history or how it's interpreted through the lens of like other religions, maybe religions that you grew up with. I think, especially when it comes to the major religions, Christianity in particular, for those of us alive today, it's important for us to be able to point to historical references or applications of the tarot to dispel the notion that reading tarot is somehow in violation of these religions. For me, it's helpful to have information about some of the references and things that actually incorporate those religions or their mythology, their stories, their symbolism, and things like that. So I was looking forward to that, and I think she's delivered on that. One of the first parts that I tabbed was in the beginning of the book, where she was kind of talking about astrology and how you might look at the book. It's in the chapter called Gambling with the Moon. The first thing I really liked about this chapter was finally, I probably could have Googled this, but I never had. But finally, I knew what the difference between the sidereal Vedic astrology and what Western astrology is. And so basically, it's 2 months off. And I had always wondered like what it was. but it's 2 months off. So if I'm a Leo, born August 9th in the like sidereal astrology, I would be June 9th, which I think would make me a Gemini or a Cancer. Because I think May 27th is a Gemini. My friend's a Gemini. So a Gemini, right? Yeah, so I was like, okay, so I'm a Gemini. And it was so weird because right before I read that, the night before, I had this dream about two lizards that were like injured or whatever, that I took care of them by giving them water and stuff. And they were like, thanks. And then all of a sudden there were two parakeets. So they were just like twins of everything in my house. And then I wake up and I learn I'm a Gemini, which is the twin sign. So that was kind of freaky and like weird. And I felt like I was supposed to pay attention to that and that this book was supposed to teach me that, just to pay attention to like Gemini horoscopes as well as Leo. But in that same area, um, she asked what I thought was a really like deep thing. She said, why should a tarot reading play this game? Um, and she says, any reading that defines you, that says you are such and such a person, or that describes your destiny in fixed terms, becomes part of Seth's gang of suffocators. Can we learn to read tarot like thought? That is, to gamble with our supposed fate and open it up to new possibilities. Like the new gods born outside any day of the year, can we use divination to bring new things into our reality? And then she goes on to say, Thoth did not invent tarot to describe a fixed universe. He invented it so he could go to the moon and say, want to play some cards? The god of magic invented tarot to liberate us from measurements. And that was super powerful to me. I went live last night for a high tea and I talked about a tarot spell that I had used to effectively banish my husband from this apartment. And I those two things really clicked for me because I did the spell several months ago, and I read this passage like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, oh, maybe that's why tarot cards lend themselves so well to being used in spells, because we tend to think of them as these pieces of paper that tell us about a definitive future or some definitive outcome, but maybe they really are more of like game pieces with the universe. And throwing them out is a way of kind of seeing how the game is going for you right now, but also how you could change up your next couple of steps to swing the outcome of the
Mhm.
game. Um, and I just thought that was really like powerful and cool. And this idea of gambling with the moon um, is really powerful. And it was a full moon today, so it was just a lot in this book. I feel like it's one of those things where I'm reading it at like a really like the perfect time in my life to be reading it.
Yeah, it's
So I'm
coincidental. Yeah, exactly. When you're supposed everything happens for a reason. We know that.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm maybe taking more from it than, someone else might reading it, because I keep having these weird moments of like, oh, I think she's talking to me, like let me go deeper with that. I think I can use that. But I did think that that was a really cool way and something that I was looking forward to in a book that's not about meanings and definitions, but it's more about a spiritual journey. I
Mhm.
thought that was a really deep point to take away from this book, that tarot is not about determining some you know existing future.
Mhm.
It is about um, having a conversation with the universe about where you're going and where you want to go and what you would need to do to get there.
Mm, mhm, mhm, mhm. Yep. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm very new to tarot, as you are aware, but I have told probably more than one, at least Marlene and another person, that tarot does not tell your future.
Hmm.
It gives you guidance. It
Hmm.
gives you food for thought. It gives you equipment to say, maybe I can look at this in a different light. And that's what I've been taking from it.
Mm-hmm.
So the book does help with that, because it's like it's right in line with it. Tarot does not tell the future. That's
Right.
not what it's doing. It's guiding, it's advising, it's giving you things that you haven't looked at, and she numerous times goes into, that kind of thing. Um I'm just trying to think, there was something. I do have a hard time interpreting the imagery that she uses,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not familiar with them, right? Like I'm like, okay, and then she goes into to explain some things, and that's why I got to go back and like, and I'm about research. I see, okay, what is Tao, and then I had to look it up and learn more about it, and so the imagery for me was a bit hard. I am a rider Waite kind of gal. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
know. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I've been studying for the last 4 years. So some of the imagery was a little hard for me to, I guess, wrap my brain around it. And even when she puts the parallels, like the rider Waite, and then the other one, I'm like, I just don't, So it's a good way to learn other, I guess, imagery and interpretations of the tarot.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that she uses tarot from different backgrounds and the
Mhm.
different styles. I think it's good to. It's harder, I think, to really like fully embrace them because the book's not like in color. I feel like if they were color pictures, they would be a little bit more dynamic and would
Right.
express her, because she doesn't really sit and like pick apart the different cards. So I feel like if they're going to include them, then they should include them in color, maybe on like glossy pages throughout the book, so that you can really embrace how they feel different. Because printed in black and white like this, they kind of feel all very similar.
Mhm.
um, and it's a little harder to really like sit and get a different feel for
Yeah.
them. But I do understand her doing it, trying
Mhm.
to give us uh just like a wider range of like how these used to be. I also like seeing cards next to each other over time because I like seeing how we changed certain cards and certain vibes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you can really see that in like the very old school ones, um, how we've kind of taken some big differences, and how that is interesting to think about. Like if somebody changes the image of the tarot card, what's correct? Like their interpretation of the card or like the first one that ever got created? Um,
Yeah, because the world, when you look at like 73, the picture of the world, I'm like,
mhm,
I don't see the world. I don't see the
right.
world. Because
There were a couple like
it's a
that.
figure. It looks like a feminine figure,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I don't know. So it really is interpretation, right? Like, but that's the one of the older decks, right? With that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did we get from that to, our world or your world? Because you're on a world card too.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like the world card I'm in is more like traditional.
Hmm.
Um, Even though it's like I'm like floating or something. But in the world card, she's floating like in a reef or whatever. So
Yes.
I think it's a little bit more liberal. And there's something interesting that Pollack says. She says the card becomes a means to experience the things it symbolizes. An actual magician can use the picture to enter these states, move along the tree of life, and understand how the divine light expresses itself.
Hmm.
So I thought that was a cool phrase because it, to me, made me think of like my vision boards and putting cards on the vision boards. And I was like, oh, okay, I kind of do that. Like I use the picture on the card to enter the state of the picture on the card. But even more interesting is when she says the card becomes a means to experience the things it symbolizes. And
Say that
so
again.
the card, this is on page 37 near the bottom. She said the card becomes a means to experience the things it symbolizes. So, in that way, the purpose of the images on the tarot is to help you to experience what the author is symbolizing with that card.
Mm.
It's to make you feel something. And so, if that's the case, then I feel like the interpretation of the person who made the card is more important than like a general definition, because the person who's creating the image has an experience that they want you to be able to feel.
Yeah.
And that is going to be very specific and very unique to them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like some of my aversion to tarot cards that are very stylized and abstract and stuff, because then I feel like I really need to understand you, the illustrator, in order to get what experience I'm supposed to be having with this particular card. So I tend to gravitate back towards just like traditional looking Rider Waite Smith cards, I think, for that reason.
Hmm. And I was happy she called out the indigenous people in the book. Woo-hoo. You know,
Yes.
I'm always happy when that's done.
Yeah, I think that's something that I see more often with books these days, just in general. Just authors of all backgrounds, but particularly white authors, doing a much better job of like acknowledging indigenous contributions to whatever they're talking about, or even just acknowledging that they may not know enough
Hmm.
um, about what impact these things have had, or how they may have been impacted by indigenous communities, but just like giving a shout out and
And
acknowledging
that's
that.
all it was. There's
Yeah,
nothing deep about it. It's a
yeah,
shout out. That was all it was. The
yeah. I saw
Algonquin
that.
people. That's all I
Mhm.
needed to hear. And then I was happy because it was like, okay, another little
Yeah,
nod in the right direction.
yeah. I think she did a lot of that, especially in the beginning. A lot of dispelling some of the misconceptions about where tarot may have come from and what
Yeah.
the different impacts of it were. And I like that because there's a lot of, I'm not on TikTok, thank goodness. But I hear that in places like TikTok, you get a lot of like false information amongst young tarot readers, making claims that like tarot's from ancient Egypt and all of these things. Um, and I always like a refresher of like tarot history to
Yeah.
remind myself of like, okay,
Yeah.
we know that is not the case. So this book was filled with a bunch of quotes. I thought it was cool that she started the book with the quotes and was just like, I'm going to list them all in no respective order. Um, but were there any quotes that stood out to you either from that list or that she has sprinkled throughout the book?
Mm, let me check my notes. I mean, you know, my indigenous call it. I like that. But quote, I
Hmm.
don't know if I grabbed, I mean, I highlighted a ton of stuff. I don't know if anything was an actual quote.
Hmm.
Me
I
and my
have a
brain.
few.
Okay.
Yeah,
Share
from the
away.
from that first list.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, these are good, but they didn't get real good till the like third or fourth page. But I have four favorites. First, by Mary Gizer, I think is how you would say the name. God lives in the spaces between the cards. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was very special because I'm always reminding people that the cards are just pieces of paper with pictures on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not where the magic is. So I thought that was beautiful. Normandy Ellis, further down the page, said, "Give me not words of consolation, give me magic."
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty empowering. Basically, like, I don't want to hear, no, it's okay. Like, no, give me a spell. I need to
Yeah.
fix this.
Yeah.
On the next page, I really liked shuffle it, for everything is in it.
Yeah.
Because I felt cool about that. And I think that's one of her own quotes. And then the last one, which is also from her, she says, "The only thing I can say for certain is that you will never come to the end of it." And after how long it's been since I picked up my first deck, I can say that is 100% true. I do not feel like I am anywhere near the end of tarot or learning about it, and that I never will be.
Yeah.
So I liked those.
See where some of my other notes were here.
What did you think about all of the like focus on Kabbalah and Judaism and like the tree of life? I felt like there was a lot of that.
There was, and I mean, I have no, like, I have an idea because I follow this gentleman, and he does regular tarot, but he does a lot of Thoth. Is that how it's pronounced? Thoth
I think so.
and Kabbalah, like a lot, and and it's just like, it's like, I mean, I know
Mhm.
that they're connected. I know that they're connected because I've seen it in other books about it, and this guy talks about it. And some tarot decks, we have I have one. I'm not quite sure what it is. And it's got the Jewish symbolisms on the card.
Mm,
And I don't use that deck. It was one of my one of my first decks where I really didn't know what I was looking for, and I didn't know what I was gravitating towards.
yeah.
Um, and I just didn't even look at those parts because it's like, I don't know what they are. It's
Mhm.
like, because I don't know Kabbalism and Judaism, so those ones I'd have to buy books and study even further. And I'm like, I just want to get this down pat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is another like an extra level. I don't know if she's Jewish. I'm gonna say probably. Um, it would make sense, she's probably really drawn to the connection from her own background,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Um, but also, I guess it's kind of hard to avoid because the Order of the Golden Dawn was so impacted by Kabbalah,
Hmm.
and things like that. But I did think it was so interesting that I feel like right now, with everything going on in Palestine and with Israel, that I feel like um, I'm being called to like learn more about Judaism, and obviously Kabbalah is not quite Judaism, but like to just better understand the religion, and to read the Quran. I've been hearing from people like there's this huge upsurge in people reading the Quran right now, like Americans, like white Americans reading the Quran because people really want to have a better understanding of Islam and educate themselves on the actual teachings as opposed to, them just being made out to be like terrorists. And I found that interesting because the parts of the Quran that I have learned about seem really beautiful. They really seem really beautiful. And so do like traditional interpretations of the Torah too. Um, like I'm a little more familiar with those growing up Christian because it's like the first half of the Bible, but they have a different version. It's not like the King James version, and it's just seems a lot more beautiful. And so, being that the tarot incorporates all three religions in their symbology and stuff, I feel like I understand the Christian ones. When I look at a card and I see the cross or I see, a devil or whatever. But
Yeah.
then when I see like Hebrew letters or something that references to like Islam, I don't know it as well. And I would like to know more.
On page 55, I penciled this, so it obviously was important to me. Um, does God have a soul? I
Mm,
thought that was food for thought.
mhm.
Uh, when you're in the front of the book and you highlight something, you're like, why? Why did I highlight that?
Mhm.
I mean, it's got two colors. It's got green and yellow. So what was I
Super
talking
important.
about?
It's extra
It's
important.
really super important.
Right. That's why I use the tabs, though that it doesn't necessarily help anymore. I
Tab.
use the tab, but then it's like, well, what was the tab for? But I try to write in the margins. I didn't have a pen the last time I was reading.
Well, I'll tell you what it was about. It says it's the last paragraph on 54. We are each mysterious creatures, unknown to ourselves as much as others. We are hunters, fierce in our desire for meaning and love. Together we form a complex and dangerous landscape. The tarot helps us move through the landscape. It teaches us at the same time that it helps us find our way. It allows us to look at ourselves to see how lives fit together and also what possible meaning lies behind, inside, or events. If we choose, we can use to look at those deeper mysteries under the surface of our everyday lives, the symbols that lurk under the woman's confident feet. So I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. Tarot does not tell the future. It gives
Right.
you guides. It gives you, you know, things to think about. Maybe we should try it this way. So um, I guess that really drew to me because it's like highlighted in yellow and green.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna highlight that too because I think that's very I like
And right
that
on the
too.
top of the next page, they talk about, what is a soul and does God have a soul?
Right.
So, for if we personify wisdom as goddess of all truth, we are not her. Why not ask her the things we really want to know? And I like that
Mm,
they had her,
yeah.
you know?
Well, and interestingly, her calling it the wisdom as the goddess of all truth, that made me think of the wisdom goddesses in Hindu mysticism. You have I'm always telling people about this book called Shakti Rising that was that I love so much. But basically, it is a book that takes you on a sadhana through the 10 wisdom goddesses. And they're all these like different forms of basically the principles or the characteristics like of life.
Mhm,
And they encompass like the different, I guess, levels of wisdom,
mhm,
whether it
mhm,
be honesty, whether it be being content with your life, whether it be nonviolence, like choosing to not be violent,
yep.
and things like that. But I love the idea of these different aspects of wisdom being goddesses, and that when you're sitting down to read tarot, you're kind of going to one of them or to all of them, basically saying, I need your wisdom
Yeah.
in this situation. Um, why don't you guide me? And I feel like this maybe kind of is why I don't like it when people take tarot in a silly way. Um, sometimes you'll get people that want readings and they'll be like, what was my dog's name? Or, like you can tell that they're not taking it seriously. Um, and that just made me think of that because it's like you can find out through tarot really important things. Like, what do you really want to know about the universe, about yourself, about other people? Because you can access that through this.
It's true, Allie. You know that I've been going through some stuff here and the whole job situation. I want to say prior to me getting on, tomorrow is 2 weeks already. Oh my God.
Congratulations.
Um, yeah, it's a 2 week trial, and then we're going to reassess if we're both a fit for each other.
Yeah.
But before that happened, when I got wind of this job, right away I pulled cards that night, just 3 cards, just 3 cards. I don't do more than 3 cards. I don't read for anybody else yet. I just need to feel confident in what I'm doing, and right now it's just for me.
Hmm.
Even though I've got a umpteen sets of cards.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
um, I'm trying not to buy any more. I'm trying, but they're just so
enjoy.
pretty.
Yeah.
Um, and I've probably, gotten down to being able to read twice a week, and it's just been for me, and it's been so helpful because I'm asking the questions around the job, right? I've created my mojo bag, and now I'm reading my cards and I'm journaling, and they were so giving me messages that I needed to hear. They were giving me them, and I believe in them because the job came up real fast, real
Yeah.
fast. It landed in my lap, and it was a perfect scenario, perfect storm, completely remote, working with people. We have about 35 staff, and they're all over the world, and
Wow.
I don't have to go into an office.
Nice.
So, and it's a lot more money.
Yeah.
So, so my mojo bag worked.
Yes.
But I felt that over it's been almost 6 weeks since the beginning of the process to now being there for 2 weeks, and I've drawn cards and I've pulled cards, and they told me from the very beginning, don't rush it, stay calm,
Mm-hmm.
have patience.
Mm-hmm.
The very, very beginning was when my granddaughter was a month old, and it said, enjoy the celebrations.
Mm.
Pause, pause, rest, enjoy the celebration because she was brand new,
Yeah.
and things will happen that are supposed to happen. And I was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. So, when I was getting a little antsy, I'd pull my cards again, and they were telling me, pause, stay calm, some and it kept telling me that same message in different cards, but it was still giving me the same message. Stay calm. What's meant for you is going to come.
Right.
Now I have. So,
Yes. I love that. I love that. And I feel like lately I've been going to my cards more
mhm,
too, to like specifically, ask for guidance, for direction, and trying to really just do a better job of like listening to them basically.
mhm, mhm,
And
yep.
well, not the cards, but like, listening to spirit basically and not second guessing what is there for myself. Because doing readings for yourself, I think, is obviously like important. But when you also read for other people, sometimes it can be a little tricky to read for yourself because you get good at like interpreting things in multiple ways. And
Mhm.
so you can get good at interpreting them in multiple ways for yourself and be like, oh, well, but this
Especially when you're
too.
on a mission.
And it's like, girl, you knew what the message was when it first came out.
You didn't
So,
even need to pull those cards.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
because I'm still in the practicing baby steps of tarot. I mean, this all began with me following you and your tarot readings, and that was
Yeah.
it. And I've tried to not be as hard on myself. And journaling is really important. Like it really helps because what I do is I pull the cards. I know my question. I know what I'm asking, and um, I write down my interpretation right away. Like I write down what I see in the card, and then I'll pull because I'm not sure. I pull the books up, and what I've written, I'm getting there. They're like, okay, that was it. Okay, you're learning it. So 4 years in, almost
Yeah.
3.5 years. I feel more confident, but again, just reading for myself, and like you said, maybe I already knew the answers and just needed a little bit of reassurance.
Yeah.
I think that's more what I was asking for from the cards, even though I wasn't asking that particular question. I
Hmm.
think I just needed reassurance to just, you're on the right path, you're doing the right things. What's meant for you is meant for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really grateful like for having tarot in my life in general, and just like having really the relationships that I have with my ancestors, with my spirit guides, but the way that tarot has proven to be so helpful in cultivating those relationships, I'm very super super grateful. So
Mhm.
yeah, sometimes I have to slow myself down Because sometimes I want to be like, and it's like, dude, you don't have any questions. Like, you've already asked everything. Like, you don't need to be pulling cards every day. Like, it's okay. But sometimes you just want to like sit down and chat, kind of
Yeah.
like getting on a phone to somebody.
Well, and me just practicing, right? Like I've gone, where it's a month and I'm not pulling cards, and I want it to be more of a regular practice so that I feel confident with my interpretations. And that
Hmm.
is exactly what it is. It's an interpretation, but there is a guide, that
Right.
it's you I mean, you don't need to follow everything that the guide says, but am I hitting some of the similar points? So,
Yeah, it's a language. I
yeah.
feel like it's a
Yeah.
language. It's a language that can help you translate from spirit language basically to like English or whatever it is you speak, like human language.
Mhm.
And so, if you were speaking a certain language and they said their language's word for blue, and there's so many different shades of blue, you're going to have different interpretations of exactly the shade of blue, but you
Mhm.
understand that it's blue that they're referring to, and may not be exactly what they have in their minds. So that's how I kind of see the tarot, where it's giving you blue, and your interpretation is going to determine like what shade of blue,
Yes. Yeah.
which might not be exactly what somebody else had in mind or what the person who made the card had in mind, but you generally are on the same page that, okay, we're talking about blue here.
Yes, exactly. It's a guide, right? Right back to being a guide. Yep.
Right. Well, I agree. Do we have any major critiques or criticisms of the book so far? I know both of us still have quite a bit more to read.
I know you
But
hit it already with the no color pictures like that. It would have been really helpful to have that.
yeah,
It's hard to see three-dimensional in black and white.
yeah. Yeah, I would have liked that a lot just because I feel like they also played with color a lot, is my understanding
Yep.
of, the choice to use primary colors in Pamela Coleman Smith's version, I think was intentional. And the different colors relate to different vibes, whether it's a biblical text or whatever, like which angel is this? Well, if he's wearing a red robe, then kind of know, and, stuff like that. So, I feel like color is important to the designs, but also it helps us to see like which one's older, which one maybe is more European or more Christian or more what have you, based on those colorings. So I feel like if they're going to actually use these cards in the description, like Pollack's going to actually refer to them in the teaching,
Mhm.
then they should be in color so we
Yes.
can really fully get the vibe of them. So yeah, that
And
would
I
be
think
one.
you and I mean, a first-time person, like a person that's never seen different decks of tarot and they pick this up, yeah, they're not going to know what tarot deck is an old tarot deck and what one's a new one. We have, I mean, pretty good. I mean, I think most of the photographs, most, not all, because I know she uses some rider weight and stuff, but a good percentage of them are in the old. Oh, hi, Linda. They're the old tarot deck,
Yeah.
like so. You and I know that, and people that have studied it would know that, but someone that's reading this book for the first time, they wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, I agree. Hey Linda, how you doing?
Hey, how are you guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you
Yeah.
great. I'm glad you found us on this on StreamYard. I wanted to, I use it for the podcast meetings, and I wanted to try it for this because I think it's got a snazzier look than Zoom. What do you think?
I do like it. I still have the advertisement up, but maybe I can get that up. But I can see you guys, and that's all that's important.
Okay, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hopefully the ads go down.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we might use StreamYard for a little while so we can easily see the screen and stuff like that. But yeah, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Linda. Pronouns she, her, and glad to be here with you guys.
Yay! How much progress have you made with the book, if at all?
I have gone halfway through the book.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice, nice,
about
nice.
halfway through.
Well, we had been chatting for quite a while. So if you're ready, why don't you jump right in and tell us what you thought about it?
Um, I did like the book, and it brought some different insights from the tarot that I hadn't thought about, like making it more personal for more universal type questions about God and that kind of thing. That was a little bit different for me.
Mhm.
Um, Pretty much. I mean, it wasn't. I like the book, but it's been kind of difficult to get through. Not like it's difficult, but for me to stay focused with some of the things. And I did hear, because I kind of got on YouTube and I saw you guys up there. So I did hear that you guys had said something about pictures, and I kind of feel like, yeah, I'm only halfway through, so I don't know what the rest of the book will be like. But when you're talking about the tarot and you're kind of discussing what, different parts of it, it would be nice to have like a picture of what you're talking about. Though I
Yeah,
did get the picture of it, I just feel like it gave me a broader scope on tarot.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I just leave it there for now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was saying that I feel like color photos would be helpful just because Pollock does use reference to those specific cards. If they were just there as like background examples, that would be different, but she does kind of go into the nitty-gritty of certain cards to prove her point. So I feel like being able to see them more clearly and in color would be helpful for sure. And I can see what you're saying about like it being difficult to get through. I think ultimately the material is probably going to be kind of dry unless you have like a really unless you're asking yourself this question already. I think it's going to be dry material. Like I think it'll be interesting if you're already asking yourself, how can I use tarot to like become more spiritual or become more religious, or how could I use it as like maybe kind of like in place of going to church or going to a pastor and being like, tell me what to do with my life, tell me, what does God mean, what am I God, like all those deep questions that you would, if you were religious, you'd probably go ask one of your elders or something like that. I think she's kind of giving us a way to use tarot to do that for us, to ask these more broad questions about the universe and God and existence, and using the tarot itself as a way of getting messages from, wherever it is you feel that your tarot messages are coming from. And I think that that's like a really beautiful thing for someone to do with the tarot, if it has become that important in their life and in their practice. But if it hasn't, then I would feel like this would probably kind of be dry material because it's very specific to that.
It is. I mean, that's a plus and a minus because I had never really thought of asking those kind of questions to the tarot. So it did pique my interest there. But at the same token, I feel like I do better getting those kind of questions answered for myself in meditation, and to each his own. But I still feel like it helped me with my tarot practice. I just had, sometimes I had to read something over again just to make sure I got that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very cerebral
Yes.
And I
talking
do
about.
agree. There were parts of it, Allie, that were dry, but then you'd get another page where, like you'd be like, oh, okay, let me read, that's good. Like they talk about the
Yes.
Kabbalah a lot.
Hmm.
Um, so, I was like, okay, enough. We got that. But now, the temp I'm on now, the, the, the Masons, right? And like I said, I'm going to want to read this in depth a little bit more, awake, not at 11 o'clock at night, because, it has come up recently in a conversation or something I've read about Freemasons. So I just want to like, this will pique my interest, like just to know what they're talking about.
Yeah. I love anything Freemason because I found out at his funeral that my grandfather was a Freemason. And I had no idea, like a black Freemason, and I had no idea.
Mhm.
So when I found that out, I was like, not me being Freemason royalty and nobody told me. Are you kidding? Like, what? No one in my family cares. Like, they
Well,
are
because
so.
it's they don't go around broadcasting it because a secret society.
Yeah, but also like it's weird to me. Like it's not weird that my grandfather didn't say anything. It's weird to me that my uncles and aunts that nobody cared. Like it's always funny how things skip a generation and how none of them had any interest in that whatsoever, never mentioned it, never did it for their own lives. Meanwhile, me, the grandkid, I'm like, I want to be a Freemason. I want to be in the secret society. I want to know what the hell you guys do in those meetings. Like, is it
I
really
want the secret
rituals? Is there
shake. I want,
cleansing? Yeah, what is this all about? Are you really running the world? Is the Illuminati real? Like, I want to know. And it would be mind blowing to me to grow up in the house like with a Freemason parent and be like, oh, so boring with stupid meetings with their gloves and their things. So, yeah, that's amazing to me. Like, I don't think my uncles and aunts get it. I'm like, do you guys not get it? Granddaddy was a Freemason. Like, it's a big freaking deal.
it's a big deal. There's a lot of stuff they got to go through to be a
Yeah.
Freemason.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my
Yeah.
my mom and aunts and stuff, they treat it like it was like a church group, They're like,
Or like the
"Oh,"
lodge, the men go to the lodge.
exactly. I was like, "That's what they had y'all thinking. That's what they had y'all thinking, that it was just the men of the
Some
church
of the
gathered
most
doing a
important
lot of
people,
nothing."
the politicians that run
Yeah.
the United States.
They were talking about serious stuff. So I'm like fascinated by the Freemason reference to anything. And I do wish that I understood them better. That is something that I wish I learned about my grandfather before he passed, because I would have had
I so
101
understand that.
questions. Because I would love to better understand what they were and why he would want to be a part of such a group, what benefit it brought to his life. He was
Oh,
a
mission
born
statement, yeah, that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
he was born a sharecropper's son, so life
Yeah,
was hard. And so if this group wasn't doing something real for his family, his life, his community, would imagine he wouldn't bother with it. So there must have been some benefit to being a part of this organization.
yeah,
And I
especially
would
if
love,
he was a
you know
farmer,
what?
right?
Yeah, and especially if it wasn't like, they met at the church, but it wasn't like it was a church group. So, but he was in the church as well. I don't think he was a deacon, but he was somebody. He always had to sit at the front. So he was like in the government, of the church, but that was separate. So this group brought you something that the church didn't. And I would like to know what that was.
Mhm. I
So
think there's also the Templars, right? Because it's all part of
yeah,
that
that comes
pyramid.
before the Freemasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I kind of, I dated someone that was big into, Farrakhan and
Of course.
debunking the not Farrakhan, but the Freemasons, the uh, Illuminati, right? Like, so
Mhm.
he would share videos with me. So I've heard about that stuff for years. Um, but it kind of reminds me of my similar situation where I want to learn everything about my heritage. And
Mm,
it skipped a generation with my mother because my mother's generation, it was looked down upon, and we didn't talk about that we had indigenous blood, because then you were an outcast at the school, and that kind of stuff, in
yeah.
the 1950s, right? But I now am like a sponge, and I just want to learn it all. So I completely understand if you found out that your grandfather was a Freemason. Yeah, give
I
me
was
the
like freaking
tidbits.
out. I was like in the funeral and I was like, I'm gonna learn this right now. Really? Like, bruh, you could have told me this yesterday, dude. I would have had so many questions. But no, so I found that kind of cool, those references to that information. And then
Sorry, sorry.
no, it's okay. Any other critiques of the book? Um, I would say, like I said, just because like it is going to be kind of dry material unless you really want to look at how the tarot is a spiritual tool, um, or a representation of like spiritual concepts. And so I don't know if I would say it's a criticism because I don't know that there's any other way to make this topic more exciting. Like, I don't know what she could have, she could have danced and like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not, it's more intellectual exploration of the tarot. So I don't think it's going to be like a lot of bells and whistles and super exciting no matter what she did. So that's another reason why I feel like the color pictures could have just added something to it just to kind of keep you going and be like, oh, I wonder what's she talking about with these two? What's going on here?
Especially
It could have
since
been
she
a
didn't
cost thing
always, the
because, she
Rider
did go
Waite
with
deck
a,
wasn't
oh,
always
sorry, Linda.
referenced. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
No,
You
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh,
You go ahead.
sometimes the Rider Waite, it was referenced, but sometimes she would be talking about other decks that I wasn't familiar with. And
Mm-hmm.
so that would have been, overall, I did like it, but there are parts that I kind of had to go, like, what did she say here? And
Mm-hmm.
go back over.
You know what I wonder? Would you guys have either of you read her first or her the big book 78 Degrees of Wisdom?
Haven't.
Mm-mm.
I've heard of it through you, but I
I,
haven't read it.
Okay, maybe we read it next year. Maybe we go
yeah.
back and start there because I'm pretty sure with that one, it's mostly Rider Waite. And it's similar in that it's not just a list of definitions. It is an exploration, but I think she does more of like less spiritual journey and more like the fool's journey, that they talk about with the major arcana and how it kind of describes the journey of like a person's life and stuff like that. I think she focuses more on that, on
Mm,
how the 78 cards kind of take you on different journeys through the characters that are on the cards. And I
mhm.
feel like that is probably more appropriate for us as a community because I feel like most of us are interested in tarot, but not necessarily using tarot for spiritual exploration, but would maybe like to understand the tarot in a deeper way than just two of cups means this, three of cups means this.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put the 78 degrees of wisdom on the list for a possible
Mhm.
for next year.
Yeah.
That
And that's
sounds
what
good.
I'm trying to do, Allie. I just don't want to know the meanings because I can't keep that in my head. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
stick.
I
If I
think it
know,
would be great to know a story, like
yeah,
how does
yeah,
somebody
and
walk
it, and it
through the
makes sense, then
card? Mhm.
yes, I'll be able to, you know, learn it better. Because
Yeah.
that's where my journey started with you, with learning tarot. So needless to say, that opened up a can of worms.
Yeah. Well, the one of the reasons also why I picked this book is because it's like doable in a month. 78 Degrees of Wisdom is like twice as thick.
Well, maybe
So,
we should use that for a 2-month read.
Yeah.
yeah, that one might need to be a 2-month read, I think, or people would have to be prepared to like really get into it.
Yeah.
So let me look at that. But I think that book would probably be more enjoyable to us and more relatable
And
for all of us, especially if my suspicion is correct and it focuses really on the Rider Waite. I think we'll enjoy that.
Well,
So,
and this one I definitely want to finish because I feel like I am getting something and I'm seeing
mhm.
mhm,
another
yeah.
aspect. Um, I think it's because really I've been reading tarot probably about 4 or 5 years. It's kind of new to me. So um, it's stretching me a little bit. And that's a good thing. I will say
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I definitely still want to finish it. I'm still going to try to get through it before starting Alter Within, especially because Alter Within is small. It's like half this thickness. So it should be pretty easy to finish that one in a couple of weeks, I think. So I'm probably going to push reading this into the first week of December or so. I think, in the sake of time, we won't go into breakout rooms today because it's just the three of us. So this is the breakout room. And when we started, Linda, I was talking about last night in my high tea. I shared a banishment spell that is based on using the tarot cards to move somebody out of your life or out of your space. And so we were kind of talking about that a little bit, how that sort of related to some of the concepts here, where Pollack talks about the cards not being a prescription for what is, to be or what already exists, but basically as a way of like asking the universe for what you want. So I devised a very kind of simple tarot spell with a figure candle to move somebody through different stages of like going away from you. So if you didn't catch that live, definitely check it out. I also mentioned in that live or in the live before about some personal developments with me and the book club. First of all, thank you guys so much for being so understanding last month when I needed to take the evening for myself. It was really nice for me to watch the replay and still feel like I was there.
Can
So
you
thank
believe
you
it's been a
guys.
month?
Huh?
It's been a month.
Yeah. Isn't that
You're doing
crazy?
good. You're doing
I'm,
good.
I am still here.
You're
Yes. Thank
doing
you very
good.
much. Yes. I made it through. I did a bunch of like cleaning and organizing today that I had kind of just been like, I've just been avoiding because I needed to like get into like his closet and like put new things there and get rid of any last lingering things I was finding. So it's been a journey and I'm getting through it. And but one thing that I definitely have noticed is that I'm super tired. I'm very burnt out. It's been 4 years since the BronxWitch journey began, and the book club's been going on for like almost at least half that time. Um, and it's a lot to administer. It might not seem like it, but like keeping it organized every month, you know, posting about it, picking the books, and having information for everybody, and all of that good stuff. It is a lot. So I was thinking about putting the book club on hold for 2024, taking some type of a break in some way, and I shared that in my live. And Nuri, who you guys know is the Coven community moderator, she was in the comments and was like, "Oh, that's so weird that you said that because I actually was thinking about talking to you about taking over the book club." Um, so that was exciting for me because basically that would allow for the book club to continue on in the Coven, but it
So
might
it's
just
not
be
going on
Nuri.
hold?
I don't think so. I think we're going to be able to keep going.
I didn't
Uh,
buy the other book for next month. I was like, this is it.
oh
My
no,
life
no,
is over.
no. Well, the hold was never going to start next month. We're going to
Oh
finish the
my
year,
gosh.
of course. Yeah, no, we're going to finish the year. I was talking about for 2024, just about whether or not I was going to pick up another year for us. So I was considering not doing that, or maybe starting in the summer and taking a 6-month pause or something like that. But it's looking like that's not going to be necessary because Nuri would like to take over the administration of the meetings, which would be so amazing for me because then I would get to sit back a little bit and enjoy like you guys do and just show up and have
Oh,
everything already
you'd still show
orchestrated.
up. This is great.
Yeah, I will definitely try to, but it'll be nice for me to, to like you guys. If I can do it, do it. And if I can't, not feel that pressure to have to. So that would be really wonderful. So I'm talking to Nuri about that now. She sent me some suggestions for the first half of the month, for the first half of the year. And with her taking over the running of the meetings, that might be really great because then I can put my attention into other things that I wanted to do for book club that I haven't been able to do before. One of which was to put together a book bundle. So you guys can get the books all at once. And I think I'm going to be able to pull that together for us. So we're probably going to cut the year into 2 halves so that it's not crazy, and present the first 6 months and make all of those books available as a bundle from the shop for like a discounted rate. So you can get all 6 books at once. You don't have to order every month or what have you. And then you'll have the books. And then if you can participate, you can. If you want to start a book early, you've already got it. If you want to go back because you missed a month, you've already got it. All of that good stuff. So that might be really wonderful. If she can take the monthly meetings off my plate, then I can make other cool things like a book bundle.
And you'll look into international shipping that's affordable?
Yeah, well, our shop already ships to Canada and the UK. The cost of it, I can't control,
Yeah.
but we should be able to ship. I think I have it selected for UK and Canada.
Mhm.
But yes, you would be good. You'd be able to get your order, whether or not it'll be cheaper than like
That's it.
Amazon.
I'm thinking rate of
That I
exchange,
don't know.
shipping.
But for everybody else who's domestic, it should present a good
Yeah.
option for them. But yeah, so that was nice because I really love having the book club and didn't really want to take a pause, but I also knew that I was really needing it, and I was like, "What am I gonna do?" And Nuri was like, "Well, I can do them," and I was like, "Oh my God, yes, I could work." So we're working that out. So stay tuned for developments on that. We'll definitely send out emails and all of that good stuff, and get the first half of the year's list out to you guys as soon as possible, so you know what's happening in January. And then the other thing I just want to give you a heads up about is if Nuri is going to be running the meetings, we have to be mindful of her calendar and everybody else's as well. And so hopefully if we moved the meetings to Sunday evenings, that would be okay for people. I know that no day of the week is going to be perfect for everybody. So, my apologies if we move it to a day that's inconvenient for people. But it's looking like Sundays would be good days for both me and Nuri moving into the first half of the year. And I feel like a weekday can be trickier for people who are trying to get off of work, or maybe getting off of work right about this time and don't have enough time. But making it later at night might be a little too much for folks that have to work in the morning or have kids. So we were just trying to pick a time that we thought would be good. And 7 o'clock on Sundays seems like it might be a better fit for most people. Most people are home kind of getting ready for their week. So, yeah, so we're thinking about doing that. So, heads up about that. There might be a change in date, and there might be a book bundle that you can get for yourselves as well. So, those are the announcements.
Awesome.
Yeah. Questions or anything about that? No. All right, cool. Well, the code in the coven is DARK for 15% off. Today is Cyber Monday. It's almost over. There's still a few more hours. So if you guys are interested in any of our virtual classes, now would be the time. You're already coven members, so you're good there. But now would be the time to, grab some discounted classes and digital downloads. I just dropped my incense making workshop in the portal. So if you've ever been interested in making your own incense cones or curious as to why I do it for myself, that class is available. And then on tomorrow, Tuesday, my fire cider class is dropping in the
Ooh, I can't
well.
wait for mine to be ready.
Yes, I have 2 batches going right now, and people who came for the workshop earlier in the month are excited because they're getting ready to strain theirs. So yeah,
I
so for
did
those
for
of you,
4 weeks, and it was 4 weeks on Saturday. I
that's
should
perfect.
keep it another 4 weeks
No, you don't have to keep it for 8 weeks. It's really up to you.
because
It's
Marlene's like bugging me. She wants her
yeah,
bottle.
you're infusing vinegar, so a minimum of 3 weeks.
Okay, so I
It's
can
going to
start
be
straining it.
good. Yeah, you can definitely start straining it. So, yeah, so if you don't know how to make fire cider, or if you're just getting into herbal medicine and want to learn something new, the fire cider workshop will be available for you guys tomorrow. But everything else that is in the portal is available, and you can use the Cyber Monday discount code, which is WebWitch, for 15% off of all the stuff in there. So, I think that is all, witches. Thank you guys so much for being here for this November session
Hey, we
of.
didn't talk about next month's book. Do you have a copy?
I don't have a copy with me. Mine is in the shop. The next month's book, thank you for reminding me, is The Altar Within by Juliet Diaz. As I was mentioning, it's like half the thickness of this book, so it should be pretty quick to get through. But I'm very much looking forward to reading it, because even though it's not a very lengthy read, I am expecting it to be a very powerful read. If you don't know anything about Juliet Diaz, she was a guest co-host on the Better Witch podcast for the Be a Better Green Witch episode. She's the author of The Witchery Within Plant Witchery, I think, and is a well-known herbalist and green witch. But she's also very much an activist, and is one of those witches who, like myself, believes that being a witch is an act of revolution, of activism, and of social justice, that witches find themselves to be a part of marginalized communities almost always, and that it is really kind of natural for witches to want to advocate for those who are being oppressed or who are ill or being taken advantage of in some way. That's pretty much what would always get us into trouble in history, is speaking up for people who are being taken advantage of and wanting to give them alternatives for how they could help themselves or heal themselves. And then people don't like us for that. So not every witch feels like being a witch is a political thing or a social justice thing. But I do, and Juliet Diaz definitely does, and she does a lot of work around decolonizing witchcraft, and helping to correct the imbalance of how white and Eurocentric witchcraft in the mainstream is. And so I'm very excited to read this book because that is my understanding of what it's all about. It is about your personal self as an altar and how you can remove from that altar things that you've been conditioned to believe about people and about different traditions and things like that as you go on your journey. So yeah, it's available in the shop. You can use the code DARK for 15% off, so you can get it from HQ if you would like it. And the next meeting is the fourth Monday of the month, which is Christmas Day. So I'm a filthy pagan, so I don't celebrate Christmas. So that's not an issue for me, but I know
I
for
don't
some.
much either, but I may be with the granddaughter.
Yeah, no, I understand. So for a lot of people, they may be. I think last year it also fell on Christmas, or it fell on Christmas Eve. I think it was the day before. So we decided not to have the meeting. But I'm planning on still having this one, just especially if I'm taking a break in 2024. I definitely want to make sure I finish out the year. And also, I want to give all the other filthy pagans who don't have plans for Christmas Day something to do. So I think I'll still be here. Not only do I not celebrate Christmas, but I'm also not even going to visit my family this December, for a whole slew of reasons. So I'm going to have plenty of time to get ready for the meeting. So I'll be here. And anybody else who it wants to tune in or is free that night, I look forward to seeing you there. All righty. All right, guys. If that is all, I will let you go into the rest of this beautiful evening. Thank you for being here for the November session of the Coven Community Book Club. And I will see you all next month.
Thank you, Allie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Linda.
Bye.
Thanks for being here. Blessed be,
Take care.
guys.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.